kids, Grandpa here. What you see behind me is the town of Bodie. Bodie started in 1877 as a mining town for gold. It grew up very quickly over the next 4 or 5 years. Bodie is now a ghost town. What that means is that all the people that used to live here have left. The only people that are here now are visitors and the rangers who manage the park. It's really kind of a fun place to explore because you get to take a chance to look at how people used to live, because it looks like they just left the home and everything behind it, and what we see today is what they left. Let's go check this town out. The best part about this trip is I get to take it with Ben, one of my sons.
This guy right here, he knows all the tricks.
There's a Bedouin saying that goes essentially like this: choosing your travel partner is much more important than the journey. Let's go look inside. Check out that living room. It's got chairs, wallpaper, a stove. That looks like the dining room and pantry. That looks like an old sink. How would you like to wash up in that? Now there's an old bed. How'd you like to sleep there? Here's a church that they once used. Here's what the church looks like inside. You can see up front where the minister would preach, and there's the organ so that the congregation could have music while they sang. They also had a stove in here so they wouldn't get too cold. Here's somebody's old backyard. Looked like they even had a picnic table. Here's a cute little house. Look at what's left of those old curtains. Here's what it looks like inside of this old house. What do you think of this old kitchen? There's the sink and the stove. That looks like a bathtub right there, and a crib for a little one. How do you like that bed? And there you go, you can get a little sewing done. See these wires hanging down? That's how the electricity used to come into the house. There's an old chaise lounge. That's kind of like a couch that sometimes you have. Looks pretty worn out, doesn't it? What do you think of that bed, Ben?
It looks like it might have been a fold-out bed. I don't know how comfortable it was, though.
Here's an interesting building. I wonder if it was a store or something like that. That large glass front is a good place to show things that you might want to sell. This place is a lumber mill, but its main job was to cut firewood. The town of Bodie was very, very cold in winter, and they had to have lots and lots of firewood to keep these houses warm. This is a picture of one of the mines in winter. You could see that Bodie could get to be a pretty cold, snowy place. This is an old engine that might have been used to power the sawmill. Here's an interesting row of houses on this old street. You can imagine what it might have been like a long time ago, with people coming in and out and people going up and down the road. But that's not happening anymore. The only people here nowadays are tourists. People like me and Ben. Bodie was a mining town. That's where they would have mined or processed ore to get gold. There's an old washing machine. You'd put the clothes down in the bottom part where they'd get stirred around and mixed around in the water. And then when you got done with them in the water, you'd put them through that machine right there, and it'd squeeze the water out. Then you could put them out to dry on a clothesline. That looks like a little bowl of somebody's treasures. What do you think? This is a well. The thing that Ben is turning around would have been attached to a rope and a bucket way down at the bottom of the well. People would have turned that until the bucket came to the top, and then they'd dump the water out into whatever container they had. They had to use a well like this when people first came here because there wasn't any water and pipes that would run into the house. You'd have to come out here and get it. How would you like to do that every day? Especially on a cold, windy, icy day, or a really hot day. They didn't have indoor plumbing in Bodie at first, and I'm not sure they ever did. Indoor plumbing is when you have the toilet inside the house. This building here is called an outhouse. You'd go out here to use the restroom. That's where you could sit. 2 people could sit in here at the same time. That seems kind of funny nowadays. Here's the old general store. You would have come here to get whatever it is you needed. They've got all kinds of stuff in here. It looks like Shell gas stations have been around for a really long time. Now, of course, when the town first started, they didn't have cars or trucks or gasoline stations. Here's a really nice house. Who's on the back wall there? Yeah, that's George Washington. People back then put things on the walls just like we do today. Today, we have garages, and we park our cars and put things in garages. Back when this town first started, people didn't have cars. Instead, in those days, they had stables. And in a stable, they kept their horses. Let's go inside and look. Check this out. What do you think happened back here? That's where the horses' food and grain was. This is where people would park their horse for the night, kind of like how we park our car in the garage for the night. This place here is a tavern or a bar. You can see on the back where they have the wine bottles and beer bottles. They also had a piano so that people could be entertained. And you can see these tables here. Those are gaming tables where they would play roulette or cards or other gambling. Here's an interesting building. What do you think it is? It has a bell on top, but it's not a church. And it has a wide open front. You might have guessed it. It's a fire station. The bell is used to call the volunteer firemen. Let's go see what's inside. Here's some of the equipment that the men would grab and run to the fire. You can see that that's a nozzle that they can use to squirt water on the fire. Bodie had some fires that did a lot of damage to the town. One was when the town was pretty young, and the other was much later, before this town became a ghost town. This building is a hotel and boarding house. If you stayed in the hotel or boarding house, you could come here for your meals and play a little pool if you want to. What do you suppose those boxes are? Those are coffins. That's where dead people are put before they're buried. Bodie was a pretty rough town and a lot of people got killed here. So I would imagine a place like this could stay pretty busy. This is the carriage that would carry the coffins to the funeral and to where they get buried. That's a carriage you do not want to be in. People would use these scales to weigh and measure their gold. If you lived in Bodie, you could have come to this building for school. Let's go see what the inside of their school looked like. There's something that's really important, because during the school year it's pretty cold. If you're lucky on a cold day, you'd be seated right by the heater. How would you like to sit in those desks? What do you think that used to be? That's a globe of the world, with all of the countries and continents painted on it. That paint has long ago fallen off. This building houses a doctor's office. That table there was an examination table. You could put parts of it up or down so that the patient could lay or sit. This little building here is an outhouse. You can see that at one time it was connected to the house. I guess they didn't like having to go out in the cold to use the bathroom. This outhouse looks like it had spots for different sized people. I think probably the kids used the little one. Not only does this house have an attached outhouse, it also has an attached garage. You can see where that wagon is in there. These guys were really pretty modern, having both an attached bathroom and an attached garage. In a town like Bodie, you needed a very safe place to put your money. This is a safe inside of a bank. The bank is burned down, but the safe is still there. A town like Bodie also needed a jail. Let's see what that looks like. You can get a little better look at the jail cells here. Obey the law and you won't end up in a place like this. Bodie's a great place to visit. People come from all over the world to see this place. Well, we're going to say goodbye to Bodie. We sure hope you had fun. Bye now.